Hi guys, tonight we're going to talk about mean absolute deviation. So far when we've been looking at one variable statistics, we've been looking at the shape, the center, the spread, and the outliers. Shape, there's four shapes. Center, we use mean and median. Spread, we've just been using range. So now we're going to take a look at another measure of spread, and that measure of spread is mean absolute deviation. And it's just another way to describe a set of data. Now you've done this last year, so hopefully this is a refresher, but if you haven't, it's really not that hard. If you can add, subtract, multiply, and divide, you're all good. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what is mean absolute deviation? And mean absolute deviation is how far, on average, all values are from the center. And our measure of center in this case is going to be mean. So how far, on average, all values are from the center, and for our purposes, we are going to be using the mean. And as I said earlier, this should be a review from last year. So if we're looking at this data set right here, how do we calculate the mean absolute deviation? Well, the first thing we're going to do is find the mean or the average of all the values in the data set and use it to work out how far, or the distance, how far the distance is from the mean, and then find the mean of those distances. So in using this data set down here, we're going to find the mean of these values, then we're going to find the distance of each value from the mean that we find, and we're going to find the absolute value of that, and then we're going to find the average of those distances. So let's get started. We'll take a look at this data set right here. Okay, so we have the data set 3, 6, 6, 7, 8, 11, 16, and 15. So if we want to find the mean of that data set, then we're going to add those numbers up. So 3 plus 6 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 11 plus 15 plus 16, and we add those up, we get 72, divide by the number of data points in there, and we get a mean of 9. And if you remember from the calculator directions, we call the mean the x bar. That's our mean. So in our table over here, we need to find the distances. So if our value is x, our mean is the x bar, and in this case we calculated our mean to be 9. So I'm going to split that last column up into two parts. So the first part, we are just going to find x minus the mean, and in the second part we're going to take the absolute value of x minus the mean. So to find the deviation from the mean, it's just 3 minus 9, which is -6, and if we find the absolute value of -6, that's 6. Same thing with the next set of data. It's 6 minus 9, which is -3. So then we're finding the absolute value of -3, and that's 3. So go ahead and finish all the way up to number 16. I'm going to pause the video and then check back and check your answers. I went ahead and found all the deviations from the mean. So again, I'm just subtracting the x bar, or the mean, from the value. And what I did here is found the absolute value of all these, because we're calling this MAD, or mean absolute deviation. So if I took the absolute value of -6, it's 6, -3 is 3, and so forth. So now I want to find the average of these distances. So I want to find the average of 6, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 6, and 7. And that's our next step, and that's step 3. So we want to find the mean of those distances. So if I add up all of those distances, I get 30, and there are 8 data points in that set, and 30 divided by 8 is 3.75. So the mean absolute deviation is 3.75. So that means on average, because it's the mean absolute deviation, the data points, the distance the data points are from the mean, if I averaged all these up, is 3.75. So that's a fairly low number, so that tells me that the data points aren't that spread out from the mean, but what that means is they're going 3.75 in each direction. So I just averaged up the distances from the mean. That's all we did, and it's mean absolute deviation. So now it's your turn to answer the video questions using this data set. What is the mean of the data set? And then using steps 1, 2, and 3 from your notes sheet, what is the mean absolute deviation for this data set? So here you're looking for the mean, or X bar, and here you're looking for MAD, the mean absolute deviation.